abroad, and that's the problem. Yeah. So you have like more of an attraction force abroad, and like something that would repel you here because it's not available in the country.
Yes.
So we should work on that, because we have a lot of people who have achieved a lot of amazing things, especially in the fields of engineering, technology, in different fields, not just space, but yeah. But most of them just remain abroad, and that's the whole problem. People just start off here and then they leave, and there's not always that thing that pulls them back to return to the country and try to like do something here. So yeah, as a first step, I would say we should, like, those institutes and facilities in the country should kind of work together with universities and students through workshops or offering like training programs or internships, just to get people to like not just stick to like the academic side, but also get the chance to work and see the practical side of things.
Yeah.
Yes, and speaking of the young role models that were highlighted during the celebration attended by President Al-Sisi, what were the models that impressed you as Nader?
There are several, and let me just before I get into that, I have to say that there are a lot of other people that should have been there, and because I personally after that day I started getting calls from all over the world, like from people, Egyptians, who are doing a lot of great things, and they're like expressing how happy they are, and they're actually trying, or not trying, but they're willing to come back and visit the country and see how they could help. So it wasn't just about the people that were there, but it's about everyone else who saw us there, because it was a way of like telling
the whole world.
Yeah, exactly, that we
young Egyptians.
Yeah,
and country is recognizing
exactly. Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Those
to say.
achievements.
Yeah. So there are a lot of amazing people, especially the ones that did all those sports, and especially the ones who had like certain disabilities, and even though they had all these obstacles in front of them, they managed to achieve a lot of great things.
Yes.
Okay. Well, President Al-Sisi launched the Bank of Knowledge, and the project that aims to gather the largest international encyclopedias, books, research, thesis, papers, articles, everything in one website. Now, how do you see this project as a step towards empowering youth? How can it make a difference in the life of youth and young inventors like you?
Truth is, I thought that was one of the greatest things announced that day, because as a researcher, usually you go and you pay a lot of money to get like those research papers and stuff, and now having that available for everyone in the country to use, that's a huge step. I mean, mostly researchers, ones doing their master's degrees or PhD degrees, I'm sorry. These are the ones that are going to make use of that knowledge bank thing. But it's a great step, and I haven't seen that anywhere else. So yeah, it's something to be proud of.
Yes, and speaking of money and funding and support that we saw as well by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the celebration, he added that youth will receive 20% of all loans given out in the next 4 years, an estimated total of 200 billion Egyptian pounds in the next 4 years. How would this change a lot of things for the youth?
Yeah, like a great obstacle, of course, is like funding and financial support, whether it's for like a new startup, and I think that was the main focus, because I think the president also mentioned that a lot of that will go to fund new startups and smaller companies. I think it was like a few thousand, and that's a great step, because financial support is something that is very essential, because there are a lot of barriers along the way, but the biggest is usually financial. So whether it's you're starting a company, or like for grants to support people to study, things like that. So that's a great step. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Nader, I have a question. Kids here in Egypt don't seem to be very much involved in science. Perhaps science is the most hated subject in school. They are not that into science because they study it as a subject that they need to pass through the exam, not something that it has to do with our lives and we can love it, and it's not fun for kids to put it short. So perhaps you are an exception, but most kids are like that. So do you think that what we can do to start with the grassroots level, to start with the kids, to make them love science, to make it more of an activity rather than a subject of failure or passing. Because the president ordered the formation of a national committee to draw a development plan to enhance school curricula at all the educational levels within 3 months. Do you think that this would include some sort of involving the kids in some scientific activities that would make them actually love science and research?
I think you just said the answer. The key of making people like something is seeing how they can use that in practical life, everyday life.
How it touches our lives.
Yeah, exactly. So you can have those like camps for students, or like summer camps, or like I don't know. There should be like a practical side to everything, not just like like you said, like they shouldn't take science as like an academic thing that they should just study in school and to pass like a written exam or something. It should be more like what would happen if you add this to that, for example, like sort of like an experimental thing. Students should be more they should get the chance to try out things in, like, whether it's school labs or, like, for example, like I said, if that would be difficult for some schools, they could organize some sort of like events, or like a summer camp for students, for example, like where they will get different people to talk about different fields of science or something, and then they would get to see that and like touch it and feel it and see it. So that will change a lot. So I guess like the content of the education, like the educational content right now, is not so horrible, but the way it's like taught is the problem. So
the approach.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to have more hands-on experience as a student, not just like learn from a book and that's it. And another thing would be exams. Usually exams kind of they measure or evaluate how you recall things more than how you understand stuff, and that's a different, like that, because for example, like when I was studying, I didn't always score like top grades, but I usually scored better when the course was more practical. Sometimes I scored better when I could see like how to use that in real life, and not just like if it's like a course that you just
need to pass. That would be boring.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we should like, I don't know.
You know, when you reach the conclusion yourself, it's better than if you read it from a book and you just have to study it and write it in exam, because it initiates or it motivates your thinking approach and creativity, because you need to think, how did we reach this conclusion? I mean, this theory that is written in a book, you need to test it yourself, so it would be more interesting.
That's true, but then you wouldn't have to like, so it's not the content, it's how you like teach. It's the approach.
Yes, Nader, you visited a lot of countries and several countries in the past 4 years, including France and Sweden, of course. So would you tell me more about the image of Egyptians for the people living outside of Egypt, and how did it change in the past 5 or 6 years following the revolutions?
The image of the Egyptians
for the people living non-Egyptians outside of Egypt.
Well, I wouldn't want to get into the political side, but it was actually a lot of people kind of thought that it's all to do with the youth, and that's why I kind of like it that the government these days is kind of pushing that and supporting that idea, because we've all seen what our generation can do, and youth are like the power and the future of any country. So what happened the past few years is actually something to be proud of, but it's something that we should make use of. So putting people on the right track, supporting them with like educationally, financially, and then letting them free to like, I don't know, to like achieve their dreams or whatever. That's a great step, and I saw that the country, like, and especially the president, as like through the knowledge bank and the day for the youth and all that, these are all steps towards achieving that, and that's something to be proud of.
Well, we are definitely proud to have you with us, Nader. Thank you very much for coming today in this edition of Nile Cruise. Thank you very much, and we hope that the ideas that we discussed today here with you would actually come into effect, and you would see more workshops and more institutions and real interest in the power of the youth. Thank you very much for now. Oh.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We'll take a short break with our reporter Basma Taha. She has a special report about المغنوتية. We'll be right back.